It all kicked off with a simple school project. My son, Ethan, just 15, had caught the filmmaking bug. For his birthday, I'd scraped together enough cash to get him a solid camera, nothing crazy, but good enough for a kid learning the ropes. His high school media arts teacher had given the class a cool assignment: capture the VYB of your neighborhood through VY Deo. Ethan was over the moon, and honestly, I was thrilled to see him so fired up about something. We live in Pinecrest Meadows, one of those suburban spots where every house has the same mailbox, and the grass better not grow past 3 inches. The Homeowners Association, or HOA, keeps this place on a tight leash. Most folks around here just nod along to the HOA's rules and go about their lives. But then there's Margaret Hensley, our HOA president. Around here, people whisper Karen when her name comes up. It's not exactly kind, but after years of her nitpicking and complaint filing, she's earned it. Ethan had been out filming for about a week, grabbing shots of trees, houses, and a sweet time-lapse of clouds rolling over our little corner of the world. He stuck to public sidewalks, never pointing his camera where it shouldn't go. I drilled privacy rules into him from the start. He's a good kid, got a solid head on his shoulders. So, when he came home last Tuesday looking shaken, I knew something was up. "What's wrong, buddy?" I asked. He spilled it all. Margaret had cornered him while he was filming some blooming dogwoods along the community park path. She'd stormed over, demanding to know what he was doing, then laid into him about how filming in Pinecrest was against HOA rules. Ethan, polite as always, explained it was for school, but she wasn't VYing it. She claimed he needed written permission from the board to film anything around here. I told her I was just on the public sidewalk, he said, his voice still shaky, but she got all red and said everything here is private property under HOA control. I've lived here 8 years and actually read the HOA bylaws unlike most folks, and I knew she was full of it. There's no rule against filming in public spaces. This was just Margaret flexing her power. I decided to handle it myself and called her that evening. Big mistake. She hit me with that smug, talking down tone she's saved for people she thinks are beneath her. The board has concerns about security and resident privacy, she droned. When I pointed out her so-called rules weren't in the bylaws, she huffed about the board's discretionary authority to handle emerging issues. I kept my cool, told her Ethan would keep filming while following actual laws, and hung up. The next morning, there was a neon orange violation notice slapped on our front door. We'd apparently committed the crime of unauthorized surveillance, active VY ties detrimental to community harmony. It threatened to do Law 50 fine for every future occurrence. I snapped a photo of the ridiculous thing and tucked it away just in case. I told Ethan to keep it as project, but to text me if Margaret showed up again. He nodded, but I could see the worry in his eyes. My usually bold kid was shrinking, all because of one woman's ego. Over the next few days, Margaret was like a hawk. If Ethan set up his tripod in the park, she'd be walking her yappy little terrier nearby, glaring at him. When he filmed the pond with its duck family, she'd pop up to check the water quality, which somehow meant standing in his shot and yapping loudly on her phone. It was clear she was stalking him, and it went from annoying to creepy real fast. Things exploded one evening when Ethan was shooting a sunset time-lapse, capturing the sky's colors bouncing off the windows of houses on Cedar Lane. It was a gorgeous shot, all from the public sidewalk, not aimed at anyone's private space. Margaret must have been spying from her house because she burst out her front door like a hurricane in a sweater. Ethan caught it all on camera. The footage shows her charging across her perfect lawn, face twisted with rage. "Young man, I've told you to stop this unauthorized filming," she bellowed, loud enough to wake the dead. Ethan's voice, shaky but steady, comes through. "I'm on the public sidewalk, Mrs. Hensley. I'm allowed to be here." That's when she lost it. She got right in his face, jabbing a finger an inch from his nose. "This entire neighborhood is private property under HOA jurisdiction. Turn that camera off, or I'm calling the police." Ethan, trying to de-escalate, started packing up, but Margaret wasn't done. The VY Deo shows her lunging for his camera, snarling, "Give me that right now. You're recording illegally, and I'm confiscating it as EVY Denke." Ethan yanked back, clutching his camera. "Please don't touch my stuff, Mrs. Hensley," he said, voice trembling. "I'm going home." Then she grabbed his arm, not hard, but enough to cross a line. Ethan pulled free and bolted home, camera in hand, while Margaret screamed about consequences and board actions. When he showed me the footage, I was furious. This wasn't just petty anymore. It was harassment and an attempt to steal his property. Ethan was in tears, confused why this woman hated him for doing a school project. That was it. I'd had enough. I called a non-emergency police line and laid it all out. They asked us to come to the station with the VY-DAO. Officer Daniels, who took our statement, watched the footage with a scowl. "Your son's 100 fan tram in the right to film on public property," he said. "Her trying to grab his camera? That's attempted theft. And touching him? Completely out of line." He gave Ethan a reassuring nod. "We'll have a word with Mrs. Hensley tomorrow. Some folks need a reminder about what public means." The next morning, I was working from home when I heard the commotion. 2 police cruisers were parked outside Margaret's house. Neighbors were sneaking peeks, pretending to water plants or check mailboxes. I couldn't hear much, but Margaret's wild gestures and pointed finger toward our house said plenty. Officer Daniels called later. Margaret had spun a tale about my delinquent son invading privacy, but the VYD-owned complaint from other neighbors about her overreach tore her story apart. She got a stern warning about false reports and harassment. I thought that'd be the end. I was dead wrong. 2 days later, Ethan was filming a cardinal's nest in the community garden, using a zoom lens from the public path. Totally legit. Margaret must have been watching from her kitchen because she came charging out, phone in hand, already yelling into what sounded like a 911 call. "I need police now," she shrieked, loud enough for me to hear from across the street. "That trespassing kid's back with his camera, invading privacy." "Yes, the same one you spoke to." Ethan stood frozen, camera pointed at the nest, nowhere near her property. I was pulling into the driveway from a grocery run and saw it all. I grabbed my phone, hit record, and walked over. Margaret was at the garden fence, still on the phone, painting Ethan as some stalker. When she saw me, she smirked like she caught us in a crime. "Here's his father, too," she told the dispatcher, practically gleeful. "They're ganging up on me. I feel unsafe." I stayed calm, but spoke loud enough for my recording. "Margaret, Ethan's filming birds for school. He's on public property. The police already explained this. Stop harassing my son." Her face twisted with fury when she realized I was recording. "This is private property," she screamed, spit flying. "The HOA owns this garden. You can't film me without consent. I'll have you both arrested." What she didn't know was the dispatcher was still on the line, hearing her lies. And she definitely didn't see Mrs. Liu, our 80-year-old garden club president, watching from the shed, taking it all in. The police showed up fast, probably because Margaret's address was becoming familiar. This time, it wasn't just a warning. After talking to me, Ethan, Mrs. Liu, and re-VYUing both recordings, they pulled Margaret aside. I caught snippets, false police report, harassment pattern, potential charges. Then, to everyone's shock, they escorted her to the cruiser, not cuffed, but definitely not by choice. Her face went from red-hot rage to ghost-white panic as consequences finally hit. Later, Officer Daniels told us she was charged with filing a false report, harassing a minor, and attempted theft from the camera incident. The DA wasn't playing around, especially with the VY-DAO and witness statements. 2 weeks later, we sat in court. Margaret pleaded not guilty, claiming she was protecting the community. The judge wasn't buying it. At sentencing a month later, Pinecrest's mighty HOA Queen got 40 hours of community service VYC, a DULA $1,500 fine, and 6 months probation. The judge tore into her for abusing her perceived authority and targeting a kid. As the gavel fell, Margaret's face crumpled, like she'd never imagined facing real accountability. The HOA held an emergency meeting days later, and she was voted off the board unanimously. As she stormed out, clutching her fancy purse and muttering about ungrateful neighbors, I couldn't help but think. Her need to control everything had cost her the power she loved so much. Ethan finished his project, and his confidence came back stronger than ever. Pinecrest feels lighter now, like we can all breathe again. But this whole mess left me wondering, how far should an HOA be allowed to go? Was Margaret just a bully, or did she genuinely believe she was protecting the neighborhood? Should kids like Ethan have to deal with adults like her just to do a school project? And what about those neighbors who stayed quiet until it hit the fan? Were they complicit or just scared? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if this story got you fired up, and subscribe for more real-life drama. Let's get this conversation going.